What does it do, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Scotty Says. I am your host, and welcome to episode 145, 145, my folks. And this is it. This is my annual Lakers All-Star Break Report 2026 edition. And it has been an interesting season so far, wouldn't you say? And I mean, part of the intrigue is just how closely the Lakers' outputs mirror last season. Of course, you know, there are plenty of storylines now after the Lakers got unceremoniously bounced in 5 at the hands of Ant and the T-Wolves. And so coming into this season, the first full season with the slim down and ready to go Luka the Don, and of course with Reeves, hopefully, I felt anyway, hopefully looking to redeem himself, to improve upon what started out as a great season for him, but it ended up, he vanished, he disappeared. He went Houdini style in the playoffs. I mean, Minnesota shut off his water. They put McDaniels on him and shut him off. And Reeves was thirsty and dry the whole playoff series against Minnesota. And so, you know, I was of the mindset that Reeves really needs to come back and show that Reeves is not what we can expect to see in the future, that we're going to see a more consistent, more refined Reeves who can adapt his game and not have his water shut off in playoff situations. And so the season started, it looked as though it just may be the case that Luka now, you know, slim and trim and ready to prove himself once again to the rest of the league after being discarded by Dallas. And Reeves now with fresh incentive to really demonstrate that he is in fact him. No, an opportunity to make a great deal of money is standing right there for Austin Reeves. And so I will give more in-depth analysis about the roster in just a bit. But when you combine those two with that third option being the King, LeBron, well, the idea was if you can just fill out that roster a little bit, you got a shot. And if not, you have an opportunity at least to give the people an entertaining brand of basketball. And hopefully with the new ownership now, the Lakers bought out of the family business and into the corporate business, with all of that going on, well, high expectations to a certain extent. The way the season started for the Lakers, man, I mean, you thought, okay, maybe those expectations aren't unreasonable. There was some great early season wins for the Lakers. And bear in mind, now, LeBron was unavailable. I mean, he's missed 18 games as we sit at the All-Star break. And so, you know, he needed 3 extra weeks to get himself back into game mode. And then even then, he hadn't had a training camp. He was, you know, some nagging things, and it took him a while to get going. We'll talk more about the roster in just a bit. But point was, I was of the mind that this is a great opportunity for the Lakers to really jump out the gate, make a statement, and it looked as though that's what they were doing. However, let's say, maybe 25 games in or so, we started to see a few troubling signs from the Lakers, and there were things that you couldn't mask, and of course there have been injuries now. Luka has been in and out with this or with that, the hammy now, and as you know, Austin Reeves out with the calf, and of course Bron making his way back. And so despite all that, with all that being the case though, the Lakers record-wise sit exactly where they were a year ago at the break. They're 33-21, identical to last season at the All-Star break. And so, as you know now, the Lakers, with a record of 33-21 in back-to-back years at the All-Star break, last year they would go on to finish, the Lakers would. They finished 50-32, and they were the third seed in the West. And as you know, they played the sixth, Minnesota, and they got handled in 5. Right? Remember Ant roaming through the building at the crib, hollering, Lakers in 5. That was thanks to Big Buck Huck's prediction. But I digress. At any rate, what the Lakers do this season to finish off and to move into the playoffs, and of course I do expect they will be a top 6 team, and they will make the playoffs, remains to be seen. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was pretty similar to what we saw last year. Depending upon who they draw in the first round, it could be one and done. Because it's essentially the same cast, with the exception of DeAndre Ayton, and he's not changing the game. So, before we get into all that, though, let's look at the current standings around the NBA. And so when we start with the West, as the West is the best. Well, we see it is the reigning NBA champion OKC Thunder sitting atop the standings. Now, they're 42-14, and the thing about the Thunder is they jumped out to that early win streak. I think they were 20-1 or something of that nature, and so there was a lot of talk about could they break the all-time record and, win how many, 74 games or whatever the case may be. Well, they have fallen to earth in a real way, and a large measure due to the team that's just behind them, the San Antonio Spurs. Every time the Spurs have faced OKC, they have found a way to deal with them. And so they seem to be in the Thunder's head, and now SGA is out with injury for at least a little while more. And so there it is, San Antonio nipping right at their heels. And you got the young phenom, the freak, the alien Wemby. And so, the Spurs are just 3 games behind OKC. And OKC will be without SGA for at least a few more games. And, well, the Spurs additionally have the best record over 10 games in the Western Conference. They're 8-2 over their last 10, and no one else is better than 7-3, and that would be Minnesota. And so I can easily envision a scenario where the San Antonio Spurs just very well might end up the 1 seed, shockingly enough. But OKC still will have something to say about that. And in the West, you still have the Denver Nuggets. Now, you got the Joker. And the Joker, he's a phenomenal player. I mean, he's the only guy we found out that has, at the All-Star break, he leads the league in rebounds and assists. And so, despite being injured, you see the output, he can score. And so he's got, I believe, 4 triple-doubles in a row now, consecutive triple-doubles. Like, that's just his game, a triple-double. That's the way he does it. And so they're right there in the 3 seed, 35-20. But there is a little bit of space between them and the Spurs, and then, of course, OKC. But I tend to, for whatever reason, I tend to not see the Rockets in that contender light. And I could be wrong for that because KD is still balling out. They're at the 4 at 33 and 20, and then the Lakers are at the 5. And, well, you know, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm impressed that the Lakers have a 33 and 21 record. That's pretty good considering the injuries that I referred to just a bit ago. And so the West is tough. The West is the best. And so all that taken into account, it's an impressive record for the Lakers to be sitting in the 5 seed at the All-Star break. But the thing is, though, for me, I've seen the promised land. And I mean, I don't think the Lakers can get there as presently constructed. They just have a deficit of athleticism. And, you know, Luka's game it's his game. And Reeves, you hope, can somehow really take the next step to that all-star status and be consistent with it. And LeBron, you hope that he will be able to just continue to maintain the level he's on, because at 41 years old, to be on the level he's on, it's quite extraordinary. And of course, we'll deal with the roster situation in just a bit. But behind the Lakers, there are the T-Wolves, the Timberwolves, and Ant. And you know what they did to the Lakers in 5 last year in the first round. So I really don't think the Lakers want to see Minnesota again in the playoffs. But once you reach that 6 cutoff, there's the play-in. And as it stands right now, the 4 play-in teams, if the playoffs were to start today, Phoenix Suns, surprising in a way to me. Golden State Warriors, I don't know. I mean, they lost buckets. And then the Trailblazers and the Clips. And I give the Clips credit because they came from a long way back. But the Clips said, go ahead out of here, Beard. You know, and so you know that Kawhi Leonard can play in spurts and spells as great as anybody, but you also know he's not really going to be able to sustain it, right? If something's going to happen, he's going to break down or something. So the Clips and the Blazers really, I think, are going to be ultimately on the outside looking in. And so I do think, well, I'll put it this way. Golden State could stumble and fall too. So we'll see how it plays out. But that is the Western Conference. Now let's look at the East. Well, what do you know? Detroit basketball. Number 1 seed. They are 40 and 13. In fact, the Detroit Pistons at 40 and 13 have the fewest losses in all of the NBA. And so percentage-wise, they have the best record in the league at the All-Star break. Go ahead on, Detroit. And I like Detroit. And that team is, I find it to be an interesting composite of players. You got the twin doing his sort of assists and rebounds business. And you've got Big Doran, you know, who can dominate the board and put in some buckets for you, you know, high percentage at the rim. And you got Motorcade, sort of conducting, and he can do it all. He's a triple-double threat. And so they've got an interesting bench. I mean, I like Detroit. Right behind them, well, damn, the Celtics. What do you know? I mean, I really thought once JT went down, they would flounder around 500. Look at them. They're the 2 seed at 35 and 19. But they're 5.5 games behind Detroit. So it's a significant distance between 1 and 2. And then the team I disaffectionately call the Tricks, New York, son. Well, they are the 3 seed. New York is 35-20. They have won 8 of their last 10 games. That is an outstanding role to be on going into the All-Star break. But so has Detroit, 8 of their last 10. You see, and even Boston, 7 of their last 10. So these teams at the top are playing well. And I'll tell you who else is playing well. Very interesting. Cleveland! This is for you, the Cavaliers. Wow, they have the best 10-game mark in all the NBA. Well, they're tied with the surprising Charlotte Hornets. 9-1, 90% of their last 10 games. The Cavs have won. They are the 4 seed. They are 34-21, 9 of their last 10. So they are on a roll. And then they made that move and they got the beard. See, they were like, bring the beard over here and let him do his thing over here with Spider. So it's an interesting race. Toronto, that's sort of Toronto. They play under the radar, but there they are at the 5 seed, B.I. and Scotty Barnes and them. And so I don't really fear Toronto if I were an Eastern Conference team, but they hang around and they're a tough out. They're 32-23, and then to hit the top 6 teams, number 6 is Philly. Maxey has been balling out. So is Embiid, but Embiid, like Kawhi, when he's in and when he's on, he can light it up for you. He can look like there's no one better. But then Embiid, you're not going to see him for a stretch of games, and so that's just the way that is with Embiid. But the Sixers, 30-24. Now, the thing is, the Sixers and the Raptors are 6-4 over their last 10. And so you see, they are not balling like that upper echelon, those top 4 teams. The Magic, I don't believe in them. It looks like Banchero has just reverted. I don't know what his deal is. Maybe it's injuries. Miami, well, they're right about 500. They're playing 500 basketball. They're 5-5 over their last 10. And then the aforementioned Charlotte Hornets. Now, they're an interesting watch. I liked them when they had the Bulls. Sexton coming off the bench, sort of to change a pace with Melo. But despite that, they traded Sexton for Kobe White. And so now Kobe White joins Charlotte and Sexton's with the Bulls, bull to bull, right? And so I find it an interesting mix. Both teams. Chicago, they are in the 11 seed. So they right now are on the outside looking in. They're 7 games under 500, and the Bulls are 1-9 in the last 10. So they are definitely going in the wrong direction. But we're only going to focus on the top 10 teams, right? And so after the Hornets, number 10 is the Atlanta Hawks, and they are 4 games under 500, 5-5 over the last 10. I don't expect much from Atlanta, to be perfectly honest with you. And so there you have it now. That is where the league stands at the All-Star break. And so I'm going to just tell you what my top 4 teams are, in my mind, in each conference. In the East, obviously, Detroit. I have to give it to the Tricks and the Cavs. And then that 4th team, wow. I mean, you pretty much have to go ahead and say Boston as your top 4 teams. And how that will work, when or if Tatum returns, we'll see. But those would be my top 4 in the East. And I'd love to see those teams mix it up in the playoffs. That would be a great, in all forms, I think that would be, or in any form, I should say, I think those would be great matchups. Tricks, Cavs, Detroit, and the C's. So I'd like to see that, of course. And I like to watch some of the other teams, Charlotte and Philly as well. All right, now let's go ahead now and move into the roster portion of this episode 145. It is an epic on tap, as it is really my first Lakers report of the season. Let's look at the Lakers roster. Okay, 25-26 Los Angeles Lakers. Well, at center, DeAndre Ayton. He's a 7-footer, 252 pounds. And as you know, the Lakers bailed on that Mark Williams trade and kept Dalton Connect, rescinded it, and kept Connect, who seems to be lost, really. He's going to be moved. I would be shocked if he wasn't. And then they go get Ayton. I'll be honest with you. Can I be honest with you? Ayton doesn't impress me. Even less when he was dyeing his hair copper or whatever color that was. Oh, man. But, hey, overall, he's been serviceable. I believe he's second in the league in field goal percentage, 68% or something of that nature. So he averages, I guess, 13 points a game or thereabout. And the thing, though, is that his hands seem tender, fragile to me. He's not strong-handed with the ball. People swipe it away from him all the time. It's like, dude, hold the ball. You're a 7-footer. You should be taking people through the rim with the ball. The defender, the ball, everything going through the rim. That's not his style of play, we'll say. And so, he doesn't even average 1 assist a game. And so I was worried he wouldn't be the answer. I don't believe he is the answer. I feel better when I see Jackson Hayes at center, to be perfectly honest with you. But that's just me. Let's continue on down the roster chart. Okay? Kobe Buffkin. All right, young brother, go ahead. We don't know. We'll see how Kobe does. A Laker named Kobe. You hope you see good things. And of course, now, your guard. 6'8", 26 years old. From Slovenia. Luka the Doncic. Well, hey, Luka, he leads the league in scoring. There's that. And whatever else you want to say about him, there's that. You could say, well, he doesn't play defense, no, or well, he can't really, I know, but he does lead the NBA in scoring. There's that. And if that is valuable, which it's hard to imagine that it's not, then you just have to live with the liabilities on the other side of the ball and other things. I used to call him Jupiter because I said his gravity is so heavy, he's dense. And I've said in the past, his style, his game, it's not my personal favorite type of game to watch. So there's all that. But when that step back three is falling, he's lethal. And he does get assists. He leads the Lakers in points and assists. And so he's an unconventional 6'8", slow-footed Slovenian point guard who leads the NBA in scoring. And when he's on, you can't really do much with him. He's going to get to his spot. And if he's making his shot, he gets to getting that little funny grin like he just had a canary. You're in trouble. Luka, the Don. Rui Hachimura. Hachi. Wow. See, I've said about Rui that he is a floater. Float on. Float. He can go stretches on the floor and you forget he's even there. And then he'll have games. He'll have stretches where he might shoot 70% from the field. He might, he'll go 8 of 9 from the field or some such number. And so I wish Rui were just a bit more tuned up on his energy meter. Just turn that dial a couple of notches. Because he has that kind of serenity about his game, which I'm not here to criticize Hachi, but I just would point out that aggression tends to pay off in this world we've seen, huh? All right, Rui. And then Jackson Hayes. Hey, after what JJ Kid Dynamite did to him in the postseason against Minnesota last year, wow. I told you. The way Kid Dynamite, the way he coached against the Minnesota Timberwolves, it was a fireable offense. I told you that, and I stand by it today, a year later, or almost a year later. But I digress. Jackson Hayes. He went to the slam dunk competition and just made a plum ass of himself. I don't know what the hell he was trying to do. Why would you enter the competition to do what you did, sir? And listen, I like Jackson Hayes, so this isn't a Jackson bashing. But I believe he is a perennial bench player, second teamer. I don't know if his game will ever evolve to the point of being a frontline starter in the NBA. But I like him coming off the bench. I wish that we just had a real frontline center, because in my mind, DeAndre Ayton is not the answer either. Bronny James, I will say no more. Bron. Well, I'm going to come back to Bron. Luke Kennard, they just traded for Luke Kennard, and we'll see what he has to offer. I believe he's like the top 2 or 3 in three-point percentage in the NBA, so we'll see how he fits. Maxi Kleber has been a big body. He takes up some space, okay, kind of the mummy out there. All right, Dalton Connect, the aforementioned. Well, I think after that trade, it was really pretty much mentally a wrap for him with the Lakers. And so this is, I think what we're seeing are just the final breaths of his Lakers career. I'm sure they'll move him. I expect they will probably move him before next season begins. Jake LaRavia has been a positive for the Lakers this season, and so that was a good pickup. I believe he's played more games than any other Laker this season, maybe all of them, and he's serviceable, he's valuable, he's not a starter, but if the Lakers could put their bench together with Kennard and Jackson Hayes and you put LaRavia there, Marcus Smart, you put him there. Now you got a pretty good bench back there. See, Nick Smith, I like Nick Smith. Put him there. I'm getting ahead of myself on the roster, though. AR-15, Austin Reeves. Well, as we alluded to earlier, he has been injured. He was having a great season up until the injury slowed him down. So we'll see how he bounces back after the All-Star break. Marcus Smart, I alluded to him briefly. He's been a net positive for the Lakers this season. I like his grit, his determination. He, every now and then you'll do something where you'll go, Smart should not be his last name. but for the most part, definitely I would say he has been a plus for the Lakers this season, and I like him. But he's starting because the Lakers have these injury issues on their front line. All right, and then of course I mentioned Nick Smith and Thero. These are youngsters. I like Nick Smith. He is aggressive. He seems confident. His shot tends to drop. So they need to give him more run, kid. Dynamite and Thero, well, again, first year guy trying to find his way. He's got a lot of energy. He needs a little more run. But now, as we're getting closer to the playoffs, well, there'll be less run time for experimental or on the cusp players. So we'll see how he does in the offseason and coming back next year. And Timmy, what about Drew Timmy? I was impressed with what I've seen from Timmy. I should have done more research this episode into Timmy because I realize now I don't know very much about him, what his deal is. I want to look into it. But my stat sheet says he's a 6'10 forward, 25 years old, 235. And so he looks comfortable out there, poised. And he plays with sort of an older vibe, more of a veteran vibe. And so I like what I've seen from Timmy. They got to give him a little more run, though. And then Jared Vanderbilt. Well, the thing is, Vando, he's got great energy. He plays nice defense. He's not an offensive threat. And so when he's on the court, people pretty dare him to shoot. And I wish he could evolve his offensive game more, not just shooting threes, because he'll sort of post up and wade, around the perimeter. But I'd like to see him do more, fake and go, drive to the basket, get to the rim, put the ball on the floor one time, get to the rim and Euro and add that to your game. And then more likely you're going to start getting fouled, get to the free throw line, hit your free throws. Okay, enough said there. And so in essence there, I have gone through your Los Angeles Lakers 2025-26 roster. Apologies if I did leave anyone out of the rundown, but these are your main guys. Now, I told you I wanted to come back to Bron. LeBron James. This is my editorial moment regarding LeBron. I feel that LeBron James just does not get the love he deserves. I really feel this way. And if it bothered him, I wouldn't blame him because, look, you could make a very compelling case that LeBron James is the greatest NBA player in history. You could make the case. Now, I know many people, most people even, will vehemently defend and go to their graves saying it is Air Jordan. Mike was the greatest of all time, and maybe he was. I'm not saying he was or wasn't. What I am saying, though, is that LeBron is still playing, still writing chapters in the book of his career. And at age 41, he is the leading scorer in NBA history. And he's in the top 10 in assists and rebounds in league history. And he's still producing at an extremely high level. I had tried to go watch LeBron play a couple different times. And each time, for whatever reason, he didn't play that game. And so I said, I'm going to try again, because to me, it was meaningful to actually go see LeBron play live. And I got great seats over at the crib. Beautiful seat. And the game I went to, the rubber band man, Robin Anthony Davis, was still with the Lakers then. And he had a terrible game. That was the game he retired that afro. Whew. And the Lakers didn't play well. Well, no one did except LeBron, he had, if my memory serves, he had a 28-point triple-double in a loss where he was the only bright spot. I was just so impressed that night with the fact that it was just a Tuesday night in LA, a rainy night. It was that game, and they were playing Sacramento at the time, and but Domantas Sabonis was running up and down and showboating on Rubber Band Man, and nobody from the Lakers looked like they cared except for LeBron, who was the reason I was there to begin with. So I was really happy I got a chance to see him play live, because this is a legendary player, an epic player, historic. And so it galls me, and I wouldn't blame him if it galled him that at his home stadium where he plays, formerly Staples, the Crypt, that the crowd routinely would chant MVP, MVP, but not for LeBron. Not for a multiple-time league MVP. Not for finals MVP LeBron. Not for the league's all-time leading scorer LeBron, the man who came and turned the Lakers around, who were in a dismal swamp, a 6-year swamp, and LeBron came and the light shone down, and a year later they were winning a title. No, they were chanting MVP for Alex Caruso. They were chanting MVP for Reeves. And so now that Luka's here, I see this so vividly, how these people want to just discard LeBron. Oh, shouldn't we turn the page? Well, he seems like he's slowing down. Well, shouldn't we focus on building around Luka? Now correct me if I'm wrong, but how many titles does Luka have? Not a goddamn one. Yeah, you could focus on building around Luka, sure, but don't discard LeBron James, the king. Don't discard him. Treat him like royalty on his way out. The fans, the media, they should honor him on his way out, not disparage him. The man is still, let me give you his numbers. To this day, right now, the man is still averaging 22 points a game in the NBA. 22 points a game, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. Would you take that? He's shooting 50% from the field. Would you take that from anybody else in the league? 22, 6 and 7 a game, and he's 41. I've seen him recently carry the Lakers to wins single-handedly with no Luka, with no Reeves. He's still got it. Why wouldn't you honor him? Well, I have my strong suspicions of what's at the heart of it. But this is just a reminder to the people in the back. LeBron James is one of the 2 greatest players to ever play in the NBA. Show him some respect. Honor him. Cherish him while you got him. He's not going to play that much longer. Why be in such a hurry to discard him? And I hope the Lakers front office and their organization doesn't think like some of these pea-brain fanatics running around. All right, enough said there. And so what you hope as a Lakers fan is that in this back end, these last 28 games or so, that the Lakers' big 3 can get some time in on task together, some reps in, and that the supporting cast, that the floater and Vando and the young kids that that these guys can chip in enough to bolster the Stars enough that they can, in fact, go on a deep playoff run. That's the hope. You know, it's just the Lakers, as I mentioned, there's a dearth of athleticism on the squad. And I can't get that image out of my mind of Reeves getting his water shut off against Minnesota last year in the playoffs. I mean, he disappeared. Wimpy. So, I gave you my 4 teams in the East. I'm going to tell you my 4 teams in the West. I believe it's OKC, San Antonio, Denver, and Minnesota. And all due respect to Houston and the Lakers, what I'm seeing at this juncture doesn't inspire enough confidence that they will be able to outpace those top 4 that I just gave you. And I wouldn't be surprised if San Antonio is bout it for real. But any of those combinations, Minnesota, San Antonio, Denver, OKC, it's going to be hell of a viewing. And then, of course, you know, the Lakers, Houston, and that could very well be who they match up with that first round. We'll see how it all shakes out. We'll see how it plays out. But, you know, the Lakers have a 0.0 points differential at the All-Star break. That means that they have the points differential of a 500 team. So the fact that their record is 33-21 at the break is, well, it could mean one of 2 things. It could mean that the Lakers have a knack, a penchant for winning, and they figure it out. Even though they play close games, they pull them out. They're great in clutch games, the Lakers are. That's what it could be, that they got the sniff of winning. Or, conversely, what it could mean, the other alternative, is it could mean the Lakers are a mirage. Smoke and mirrors. And that when the playoffs come, they'll fold like a cheap lawn chair. We'll see. We'll see. I'm certainly hoping it's the former, not the latter. You dig? All right, and so now, just to give you a sense of where the league stands in terms of star output in scoring, Luka, as I mentioned, number 1, 32.8 points a game, and then Shea is at 31.8. He's right there. Then the Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, is third at 29.3. Jaylen Brown is fourth, tied for third with the Ant-Man, 29.3. And surprisingly to me, Donovan Mitchell, 29 points even, is the 5th highest scorer in the NBA at the All-Star break. Rebounds, well, Nikola Jokic, the Joker, leads the league, 12.3 boards per game. The Big Cat is second at 11.9. Donovan Clingan, 11.5, is third. He's with Portland. Rudy, the Stifle Tower, at 11.1 is fourth. And Victor Wembanyama is fifth, or tied for fourth with Rudy, 11.1 boards per game. At assists, as I mentioned, the Joker leads the NBA at the All-Star break in assists, 10.7. He's got a sizable lead over Motorcade Cunningham. So the Joker leading the league in rebounds and assists at the All-Star break. Tip my cap to him. Cade Cunningham second, 9.6, and then a drop off. Luka is third in the NBA in assists at 8.6. He's number 3. And then Jalen Johnson, the youngster down in Atlanta, and the Beard Harden, tied at 8.2 assists per game. And then blocks, Victor Wembanyama leads the league in blocks at 2.7. Kawhi leads the league in steals at 2.1. And field goal percentage is Rudy at 70.3. DeAndre Ayton, 67.5. I said 68 earlier. There it is. He's second in the league field goal percentage, followed, interestingly enough, by Mark Williams, he of the rescinded Laker trade, 66.5% per game. Giannis is fourth, 64.5, and Kata with Boston, fifth in the NBA in field goal percentage, 63.9. Three-pointers. Let's look at it real quick. Donovan Mitchell leads the league in three-pointers made, 185. Followed by Con Knippel. What about that? The Con man. Knippel, 183. He's just two behind Spider. Steph is third at 175. Maxey is fourth, 174, right behind Steph. And Dante DiVincenzo, Minnesota. Wow, he's number 5 in three-pointers made with 171. And then percentage-wise, just to reference a Laker, a new Laker, Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard leads the NBA in three-point percentage at 49.4. So I sure hope we can see some of that with LA. Now, I want to give you a couple of next-gen stats, a couple of advanced stats. Check this out. There is a statistic. Fast break points per game. Right? Now think about it. Fast break points per game. Okay, yeah, I can imagine. Who would lead the league in fast break points per game, would you think? Well, maybe, here's some people on the list. Tyrese Maxey is second. Yeah, I could see that. Tyrese Maxey, he's quick, fast, and in a hurry. Well, Giannis is third. Oh, yeah, Giannis, right? Kawhi Leonard is fourth. Wouldn't have thought that. And Spider Mitchell is fifth at 4.3. But the interesting part of all of it, to me, is do you know that the man who leads the league in fast break points per game is none other than the King, LeBron James. 5.7 fast break points per game, leads all of the NBA. And the man is 41 years old. Give him his credit. Give him his props. Give him his due. The hell is wrong with you? All right. So let's bring this baby on in for a landing, shall we? Nose up, nose up. So the Lakers in scoring are 14th, middle of the pack, 14th. And in rebounding, they're 28th. Oh, damn. Damn near at the bottom of the league in rebounding. Shooting percentage, though, conversely, the Lakers are first in the NBA in shooting percentage. 50% shooting percentage as a team. And then assists, well, they're 20th at 25.3. And so you see this disparity in team stats in terms of where the Lakers rank. They're here, they're there, they're everywhere. All right. And so, my folks, I want to wrap this up by just taking a quick look around some of the league storylines. Well, we had the trade with the Clips bailing on the Beard, or the Beard bailing on the Clips, going to Cleveland. That's interesting. And then the non-trade, Giannis still staying put, as it appears, with Milwaukee. Damn, it'd be good to see Giannis in a purple and gold uniform, though. I'll tell you that. And then, of course, there is the tanking issue. Wow. Tanking and betting. I need to do a separate episode on it. I'm not going to spend much time on it other than to say that's a very nefarious combination, tanking and betting. So you've got all these bets and all these platforms to place bets, to wager on points and points scored and outcomes. And then you have, at the same time, you have teams like, I'm going to specifically say, the Utah Jazz. And you have You have a team actively pulling starters for the entire fourth quarter in a game that is in the balance. You are completely screwing with the integrity of, and maybe betting screws with the integrity, because we've already seen there's been many betting scandals already. But when you allow tanking as a part of any of your concepts as a league to thrive, you are setting the stage for your own demise. And so the NBA must root out tanking. Now, I have a few ideas, but I'm not going to give them to you because they don't give me one Harbaugh egg. But there are people who I'm sure have some great alternative ideas and solutions for the tanking dilemma. You need to implement it quick, Adam Silver. Doesn't Adam Silver remind you, if there was an alien on Earth, couldn't you imagine he would be, I'm one of them. We knew it all along, Adam. He ain't fooling nobody. All right, and speaking of Adam Silver, congratulations to him. The All-Star format, I think, it wasn't his idea per se, but he implemented this U.S. players versus the world. It had a lot of energy to it. So I imagine as you refine it and time moves forward, it very well may become even bigger and more intense and more exciting. And so it was a good adjustment. The All-Star game has been improved, and I like the U.S. versus the world, and then I like the young versus the old, because the young ones are coming. The next gen is here. And the older players, Kawhi put up a fight, I'll give him credit, but he completely ran out of gas. He was plumb tuckered out in that final game. But the young ones are here now. And so, Bron and Steph and Kawhi and that group, these are the final gasps. So you give them their props and give them some love while you got them. Don't try to rush them off into the sunset. They'll be gone soon enough, you fools. And so at this point, what I'm now going to ask from you, what I want to ask you to do is throw me one of these, please. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you're thinking if you're so inclined. And, well, I'll be back on the Lakers report tip at some point. Well, maybe prior to the playoffs or just after the postseason gets underway. And so, until the next one, my folks, Scotty says, thank you for watching. One love.